Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I would like to thank Professor Lumumba for putting this incredible program together. My brother, Dr. Adam, may I give you a shout out? You waved at me, and all the other participants and the organizers of this incredible program. What's happening here today is needed now more than ever. The status of Africa, the death of George Floyd reminded us once more that while a lot has changed, very little has actually changed. So when you look at what happened to George Floyd, you begin to realize that as Black people, we have been the most loyal race to the white race. Starting with when the settlers came to Africa, and followed by a couple of hundred years later, taking our children into slavery across the Atlantic, where our children built Europe, they built the United States, all along while being abused and tortured and raped and lynched. The atrocities are unbelievable and completely endless. When you analyze our status as Black people, we have been the most subservient race. And the question then becomes, when you realize that what happened to George Floyd was just the tip of the iceberg, that this is something that's been going on for centuries, while they may have stopped lynching us, even though that looks like it's coming back again, because we had a couple of young men now, maybe 5 young men, who have been found hanging from trees since George Floyd died. That's here in the United States. They are claiming it's suicide. I'm not sure why these young men would suddenly decide to lynch, to hang themselves, one of them pretty close to the courthouse. But be it as it may, we are reminded once more that if we do not come together and speak with one voice, this is going to continue. It is really plain and simple. The abuse of Black people around the world, the disrespect of Black people around the world is going to continue. You know, the West has been bullying us for far too long, and we have been submissive. In spite of all that, what saddens me the most is how we remain so loyal to the white race. Now we are getting educated, and we're getting educated so we can continue to serve their purposes. It is something that I wonder, at what point are we Black people at some point sit down and have a conversation with image in the mirror to say, are we going to continue on the path that we are on? We're currently riding somebody else's train, and this train is implementing their agenda. It is going in their direction, serving their purpose. Our train should be going in the opposite direction, implementing our agenda and serving our purpose. When are we going to get off somebody else's train and jump onto our own train? The reality is, what we have been doing as a race, the self-hate, the disrespect and distrust of each other. Sometimes I feel like I'm more disrespected when I'm among my own than when I'm with others, simply because we have this inherent self-hate. When is that all going to end? As I live in this beautiful country of the United States, I can't help but observe what other races are doing. You look at the unity among the Chinese diaspora. No Black man can open a shop in Chinatown. You look at the unity among the Italian, American Italian. No Black man can open a shop in Little Italy. The unity among the Indians in a city like Dallas. Indians from India have now built their own neighborhoods with their own schools. And yet we Black people are still very proud to be the only Black person in a neighborhood, as if it's some kind of badge of honor. That's how much we don't like ourselves. Except we don't realize that when you don't trust the next Black person, guess what? They don't trust you either. And then the next person doesn't trust the next person. So we've been at a perpetual stalemate of stupidity, really. Why can't we learn from the other races? And I use an example of the Jews. There are only 15 million Jews in the diaspora, and they own a very little bitty country called Israel. And they're the most powerful race on earth. Then contrast that with us Africans. There are about 1.7 billion Africans on earth, 1.3 on the continent, and about 400 million around the globe. And we own the largest landmass on earth, over 30,000 kilometers of square kilometers of landmass, with the richest natural resources, and yet we are considered the poorest. And the reason is because we are not uniting. When the Jews realized that they are endangered after what Hitler did to them, they found out that their strength was in their unity. They came together. They started looking inward. They started pulling their pennies together. So they went from being endangered to being the most powerful race by simply believing in each other, realizing that I may not like you as an individual, but when it comes to Israel, they stuck together like super glue. It's a natural thing. It's a natural affinity. That's what is normal. But we Black people, we have been brainwashed to dislike ourselves, to not love ourselves. We have been programmed to believe that Black was bad, Black was ugly. I usually take it back growing up in my native country of Zimbabwe. Prior to the British coming to Zimbabwe, we did not know about the color black and the color white, but they came with their Christianity, with their religion, and the missionaries told us that the manner in which we practiced our religion was bad and backwards and undesirable, that we have to adopt their form of worship. So they told us about the angels. And they said the angels are white, and that Jesus Christ was white. And then everything beautiful and desirable was white. You were white to get married. Even angels' food cake is white. And then they turn around, this is the real kicker. They said, now you look at me, we too are white. What's most interesting is when you take a piece of paper that is white, I've never seen a white person who looks like a white piece of paper. But they said, never mind how I look. We are white and we represent the angels and we represent Jesus. We're the image of Jesus. We're the image of the angels. And then they turned around and they told us about the devil. And they said, the devil is black. And they said, the devil is a horrible being. The devil does all bad deeds. Everything black is bad. You wear black to go to funerals. And then they turn around, oh yes, and the devil's food cake is even black. And then they turn around and they say, oh, by the way, even though you don't look exactly black, you too are black. Now come to church and let's worship images that do not look like you. So since the missionaries came to Africa, we Africans have been worshiping images that do not look like us. We Africans have been admiring images that we will never be, worshiping angels with the color that we will never be, except that was all a lie. The reality is, who has seen the angels? Who has seen the devils? Nobody. We were just blatantly lied to. And guess what? We just accepted it. We never questioned it. We never said, by the way, who went to heaven and came back? It was all designed to criminalize our race. It was a plan. It was somebody else's strategy. What saddens me is we are in 2020. We are in the 21st century. The white men came to Africa over 600 years ago, and we have never questioned that. May I table that, in my humble opinion, until we undo the damage at a very deep level that was done to us, until we understand that we were lied to, we were simply lied to. In my village, being an angel or being beautiful was based on deeds. being a devil or being ugly was based on deeds. What that police officer did on the streets of Minneapolis, he is the devil incarnate. That's how we must understand life and get out of this train that is full of nothing but lies about our blackness. And until we understand that we are the origin of humanity, we are the origin of humanity. Without the Black woman, there wouldn't be any other race on earth. That is a fact. And you can take it to the bank. Why then are we being demoralized and painted as the scum of the earth? You see, you got to understand that a bully does what the bully does because they themselves insecure.
Right.
We are indestructible as a Black race. And that scares some on this earth, in this world. So at what point are we going to begin to understand ourselves as Black people, as Africans, and begin to say we are just as good as anybody else, and that we have been lied to for centuries, and that we must also accept that we have been stupid enough for so long that we have accepted the lie, taken it hook, line, and sinker. Well, that game is up. It's got to change. And the onus is on you and I, we, the elders at this age. We have let our children down. We have failed to teach them the truth. We have failed to wake up from our slumber of many years, of centuries. Well, the time is now. In our Africa, the African Continental Free Trade Area is going to be implemented come next year. The reality is, we are the richest continent on earth. We are the continent with everything and anything the world could ever need. And if we do not come together, if we do not wake up from our slumber, guess what's getting ready to happen? The Europeans have been coming to Africa for centuries, and they are getting ready to move in this time in a bigger way. The Chinese may not have been coming to Africa as long as the Europeans have, but they too are just waiting. You see what's going to happen with the African Continental Free Trade Area? You can now establish yourself in one country and spread like wildfire throughout the continent. The boundaries that have been slowing them from moving across the continent are now being melted away. They're harmonizing their policies, trade policies. All the non-tariff barriers are getting removed. All that is being done for the benefit of the Africans, not the outsiders.
Thank you.
But here's the reality. If we do not unite as the African diaspora and take up that seat that has our name, if we do not unite and understand that the Chinese are waiting, ready to quadruple their presence in Africa, the Europeans are ready to quadruple their presence in Africa, they have not only a 1-year plan, not a 10-year plan, not a 30-year plan, but a 100-year plan on how to recolonize Africa.
Thank you very much.
You see, let me conclude by saying, as the African diaspora, we have a very important role to play. And our role is to occupy that seat in Africa that we must fill in order to stop our heads of states from giving contracts to the Chinese and to the Europeans. And until we move in with our expertise, that is because of the brain drain that Africa does not have the capacity that Africa needs, which is why the outsiders are coming in, Africa is going to be gone for good. So to the African diaspora, I'm saying, you have a responsibility to unite. You have a responsibility to go and take that seat on the continent that has your name. The continental development agenda must be driven by Black people, must be driven by the Africans. If we do not get on that seat, it will be a sad day when you have to go to Africa and a Chinaman takes you to Africa, and a European man takes you to Africa, a Japanese takes you to Africa. No, that cannot be. And we must all stand up together and say no to continued exploitation of Africa. We must unite. The continental development agenda of Africa will be driven by the children of Africa. Those who want to come into Africa, they have to come behind us. That can only happen when we unite. I thank you.